Okay, hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm playing an FM apparently, and they give me an extra 15 seconds. What? No way I'm playing a FIDE master. Okay, let's do our best. D4 here, 2700 bullet, 2500 blitz. This 2320 is a high elo already. And that's how you beat a FIDE master in 2 moves. So easy. What? Okay, hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're playing against e4. I'm going to play knight to f6, Alekhine's defense, or Aliekhin's defense. And we play knight to d5 here after e5, c4, knight b6. And we basically dance around with this pony, tempting forward our opponent's pawns. Okay, they go for this a4 line. Very interesting. I'm going to play d6. They're going to play a5. I'm going to play knight d7. And they might... Okay, I was expecting this line with e6 that I tend to play, but apparently we don't see that. Now with a5 I just go back. This kind of seems like it served very little purpose, honestly. Although I guess you immediately, or stop me from immediately playing g7. I'm just going to go, no I'm not, because I would then trap my knight. Okay, what we could do, that would be quite funny, is bring this knight back to f6, to then play g6, bishop g7, kingside castles. But I think, okay, let's first play knight c6. I mean, we're developing the ponies pleasantly. Now I could play g6 because there's no immediate bishop b2. And if g6 and you push this, I go here. There's then f4. I could go to g4 and I could always come back to f6. Okay, we'll now go to fianchetto this bishop along a diagonal that's been very much weakened by the pushing of all of these pawns. I'll play bishop g7. If you do this, I will just take the bishop here. You can take my knight. I will take your rook. You can take here. I will recapture. Life seems to be good there. And rook a2. With a4 and c4 played. Seems to just give me knight b4 for free. Which by I mean, I'm now just attacking your rook. You have to move it somewhere back to where it came from. And we're in the exact same position here. Except my knight's on b4. And it's my move. So this makes absolutely no sense. I think our opponent may have missed this. And I'm just going to play bishop f5. I mean, knight a3. Yeah, this is not really the configuration of pieces that you hope to get at the start of a game. I mean, maybe my opponent's fine here. Like, they could be all right. But with 2 developed bishops, 2 developed knights, I can castle quite quickly, completely untouched kingside. It feels as though their position's at least a little shaky. So I mean, how can we actually make efforts to exploit that is the real question. Because, you know, I can talk all I want, but I guess we'll start by castling. It kind of has to be a good move at some point. And then honestly, playing rook e8 and e5 could be the answer to trying to punish this king, which is clearly not very well developed. So let's just go for this straight away. Trying to open up the e-file. 2 moves from this knight. They want my bishop. Wow, what if I just do this? You take, I take with check. And if you block, we can take here. And if you take, we could take here. King takes, recapture. I think I'm doing well there. What on earth? E5 takes. Takes with check. So what do? You, for instance, block with your bishop? I could recapture and we could play that game with horrible, horrible pawns. And the threat of d3 looming. Okay, so e5 knight takes. Check, bishop e2. Presumably. Although, hold on. We don't even recapture the knight. We just play d3. Boys, I'm going to play e5. I do not care if you take this. I am so going to open up this e-file on your face. This king is stranded in the center. And now I'm just going to play d3. We're not recapturing this knight here. I'm playing d3 because this is pinned here. The beautiful knight on b4 supports that pawn. You can't take with the queen because I would take your queen. So they take my... Oh, wow. But I mean, surely now we're going rook takes here and picking up both bishops. And then the knight will be hanging. And not only hanging, but trapped here. Entombed by my light squared pawns. It has to be this. And if you play queen takes, then we just get the queen. Wow. Wow, the knight's still trapped though. So even though our opponent might have some compensation here, their knight is still trapped. So the king takes, I mean, we can very much, I think, just play a move like queen e7. Start punishing that king for being too far too developed. You know, you don't want a developed king when my queen's still on the board. The king moves, okay, now this feels to me like, okay, we've got a queen for a rook and a bishop. Also, this knight's trapped. So yes, we're definitely winning, but it feels like it's time for a king hunt. It's time to chase this king down. Now, queen g5 seems tempting. Going in to take here, infiltrating along the second rank. If queen g5, you can't block because we just take here. Okay, let's start with queen g5. The king has to move. Can't go here or here because of the beautifully placed knight. So it just steps back. Okay, now I can take here. The king retreating to the first rank has disconnected the rooks. Connected rooks are super useful. You know, they're stronger together. Queen takes here is really going to ask a question of where this rook should be, and the only answer it's going to find is e1. Okay, now all of a sudden we have this check. We also can take here with pressure on the dark squared bishop, which is again the only thing defending this knight, which is also trapped. We're so winning here. What about knight d3? Attack the rook, attack the bishop. Oh, it's just too nice not to play. Knight to d3, attacking both these pieces. And if you go rook here, oh wow. I guess I actually have to take. But the point is, after knight takes, we just pick up this bishop with check anyway. And the king can approach, but then we take the pawn with check, we defend the knight. I mean, it's completely losing even if you do this. But the fact that it's such a forcing move is interesting, because the bishop, you know, holds this knight, and the knight does act as a sort of pivot point here. I mean, you know, if my rook wasn't here, it would be mate, but oh my word. What an attack. Let's analyze that game. Okay, so here we are in the analysis. If we scroll down here, you can see an 88% accurate game with 2 mistakes and 1 inaccuracy. However, the inaccuracy, of course, we wear as a badge of honor. Whatever that move was, I'm extremely proud of it. But the mistakes, I mean, okay, this one definitely looks a little shaky. Rook e8 was a mistake. So the whole main idea of this game might have been a mistake. Okay, let's go through the game. So e4, knight f6, Alekhine's defense, and the standard, very, very standard line, e5, knight d5, c4, knight b6 was played. This is known as the 2 pawns attack against Alekhine's defense, kind of pointing out, you know, why this knight might look a little stupid dancing around in the center. However, this is also the whole point of Alekhine's defense. Basically, we're trying to lure out these pawns. We see a4 here, going for that knight. Now, the knight I normally play is, instead of taking here, a5, knight here, e6, and then basically you can get some cool lines if, for instance, look, e5 here takes, you can get this line with an obvious, not necessarily completely obvious, but a queen sack checkmate. You might have seen me during the game say that I was expecting them to play a5 and then e6. However, they just took on d6 and then played b3, to which apparently I should have played g6, and if bishop here, then just played e5 and said, you're not having my rook, I'll play bishop g7, I'll castle, I might play f5 and expand this way. But I went knight c6, fine. They went for d4, and g6 was my mistake. So, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned it yet. I'm actually doing the analysis again a day late, like yesterday, because all the analysis footage messed up because I used the engine, and for some reason, I think my computer might be getting a bit old. So I have already analysed this full game if I'm speaking a little more retrospectively than normal. So the reason that g6 was a bad move was because they can't go d5 immediately, because I go bishop g7. They take my knight, I can take their rook, they take here, I take here, life is good, you're not trapping this bishop anyway, you know, we could just take the knight if you try. So d5 immediately doesn't work, but there is a bit of a nuanced idea with, as you can see, this blue arrow here, a5, drive my knight back to d7 forcibly, because this is the only square it can actually go to, then play d5. And if I go for bishop g5 here, attacking the rook, they can take, because if I take, it's not just a matter of taking the b pawn now, it's a matter of taking the knight with check. I then have to address that, and at this point, if we turn on the engine quickly, then white's doing quite well. So g6 was a mistake. I'm not too upset about it, because that is quite a nuanced idea of them driving the knight here, just to sort of, you know, increase that length of the chain that the pawn can take pieces along. But I definitely should have been looking out for a5, because I was completely aware that it would force my knight to d7. Anyway, opponent goes bishop here, missing the idea, that's why it's a mistake. Bishop g7, rook here just made no sense, because the knight goes here, and my opponent, what they should have done is given up the rook to take the bishop, rook g8, and move the bishop back. And actually, white's doing quite well here, because yes, they're down in exchange, but the bishop is dominant. I can't even castle my king. My knight needs bringing back into the game, and, you know, it's in maybe a little bit of danger over here. It's at least sidelined over here until I invest some tempo in getting it back out. So that could have been an interesting exchange sacrifice, but instead they just drop back. And there's an interesting concept. I don't know. I enjoy this, but maybe it's just because I like maths. But you can prove that from this position to this position here, it can only be better or equal for black, because we can transpose back to the same position with black. So of the list of possible moves in this position, knight c6 is one, which takes us back to the identical position, which would have whatever evaluation this position is. Now, if that happens to be the best one, well then it's equal to the position we were in previously. But presumably here, there's a move that's better than just regressing to the same position, and therefore if it's better, this has to be a mistake, like by definition. So it's kind of just an interesting concept that actually there is no possible way that this position is worse for me than the original position before rook a2 was. Anyway, here I play bishop f5 because I thought it was better than just going back, which it obviously is. We go for the fork, force the knight to a3, the evaluation is slowly creeping up for me. Then I castle, beautiful stuff. Knight f3, and here I should have played e5. This is where my second mistake was. Rook e8 is a mistake because bishop e2, and if after I now try and break open the center, get on that e-file and punish things, they can just castle. And it's like, what am I doing? Okay, I opened this. Well, you can just probably take. Effectively, the point is that yes, I recognize the e-file was weak and that rook e8, e5 was the right idea, but my move order was slightly wrong. I mean, e5 should have been played first, more aggressive, get at the center first, try and break, maybe to take, or maybe to attack this knight. But rook e8 did allow bishop e2 and castles to get out of danger. However, they, of course, were not so careful with their king and played knight h4. Now, I definitely raised an eyebrow at this move, and I think what I said is they've moved it twice, which by I meant, if you have a huge problem here, as I identified in, I believe, this position, where I said, okay, I've got 2 developed knights, 2 developed bishops, and you've got an untouched king side. I'm massively ahead on development in that sense, so moving a piece twice is going to mean that in most circumstances, I'm going to have some way of tactically punishing that. Now, of course, we found it, e5 here, and then after they take, we go check, and if they blocked with the knight, then we could have taken that knight presumably, and if they trade, then we could take here. We're crashing open the king, the rook's beautiful, we can recapture, the queen gets involved, the knights are still probably really useful here, maybe not the knight from b6. And the craziest part here is that obviously after bishop e2 we played d3, but if they go king here, we have queen g5, and it's actually a forced checkmate because of how useful the knight and the pawn are. The king has no moves, so you have to block, then we can take. Problems. If pawn takes, I mean, I presume, is that checkmate? Yeah, it looks like checkmate to me. So the king couldn't move. You can't really just block with the knight because we're just going to take it, even though that was the best move. They try bishop e2. We find d3. And of course, if you castle here, then I guess we can just take and fork. So instead, they take the bishop. We take here with check. Then if the king had moved, we would have picked up the bishop here. So the best move in this position after we take here is actually for them to sacrifice their queen, which is crazy, which is what we saw. Queen e7 best move, queen g5 best move, and then we pick this up best move. Now here, queen f3 going after this pawn would have been a good idea. They'd have had to block with rook, so I'd have to check. I wasn't going to, win their bishop, for instance. But instead, arguably more elegantly, we finished the game with knight to d3, whacking that knight there onto the very loose square. Here, and here are all huge problems. So our opponent, feeling hopeless, of course, resigned in this position. Went for a bit of a greater analysis to actual game ratio today, but generally if the games don't last that long, I will not only try and flesh out the watch time, but I just think, having a sort of 10-15 minute video is better than a sort of 8-minute video, and hopefully a lot of you benefit from the analysis portion as well. Thank you for watching day 8 of the Will Taylor Chess Christmas calendar. I was about to say challenge. I guess the acronym also allows for challenge. But make sure you subscribe, whack on those notifications, and come back for the next one tomorrow. If you do comment below, I will definitely read it. I haven't been replying to many comments recently. I've been so busy just trying to crank out this content. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.